Hello everyone, Vaida from Bookbindersbuddy is here. Today we will do a very well-known fictional story, Alice's Adventures in the Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And here I'm facing a moral problem. And in a few minutes you will see in this video what kind of moral problem it is. As we all know, this book is very famous not only among children but also among adults. I would even say that it is more for adults than for children. I started, of course, by downloading a text of the book from the internet, and since I downloaded a PDF file, it needed some editing. Very often, when you download a book from the internet, you can find a lot of grammar mistakes, and also the formatting of the text is not always correct, and you want to change it. But it might take you like 2 or 3 hours to do that, but once the text has been corrected properly, it can be converted back to PDF file, and a zip file with the documents can be downloaded for printing using the Bookbindersbuddy web application. The app works great. You download a zip file with 3 documents, the folding instructions, and 2 printable documents, side 1 and side 2. So, you print the text at home with your single-sided printer and then you get to work. It is time to bind the book. The book has 7 signatures. For the stitching, I made holes every 3 centimeters and sewed it in French style. Now, let's think about the author and the story itself. The official version of the book's birth tells us that Lewis Carroll, as we know him, but it is not his real name, was a professor of mathematics at the college in England. But few people know that he was also a photographer. He took portraits of famous and influential people of the time. He also wrote poetry and short stories when he was young and sent them to various magazines. They were published and the author was kind of known. One of his college friends had many daughters. One of them was Alice. In his interactions with his colleague and his family, he would tell his friend's daughters different stories, and the story of Alice was girls' favorite, so he wrote it down and gave the manuscript to the girls. Some people believe that Alice, the daughter of a friend of the author's, was an inspiration for the author, but some sources say that the author denied this. However, there are more legends about the author of this book, and some of them are really nasty. I don't want to state anything as a fact, but you better don't look at the author's photographs, especially of children photographs, and especially of little Alice, the girl of his colleague. The author of his book was passionate about photographing little Alice, and he chose strange places, such as graveyards, to do it. Also, in some of the photos, the girl appears to be wearing ripped or dirty clothes, even though she came from a wealthy family. And it wasn't a piece of art or something, it was something strange, I would say. And I'm not going to talk about certain negatively labeled mind control programs that have used children's stories, one of which is Alice's Adventures in the Wonderland, to create a new personality or shift one personality to another. It is terrible, terrible thing. I don't want such a things exist in this world, but unfortunately they do exist. By the way, do you know what was the original title of this book? I'll tell you. Alice's Adventures Underground. Nice. So here is my problem. if you know for sure or you suspect that an artist was a horrible person but created spectacular artwork, can you enjoy his work? And when I say a horrible person, I don't want to say like he was a liar or thief or, I don't know, much more horrible. Imagine if a writer was a genius and wrote spectacular text with metaphorical meanings and symbols that you may not fully understand, but they leave a mark on your subconscious, and you act one way or another because your subconscious has accessed a code that you don't realize when you were reading the book. Take the shadow as an example. The shadow is a symbol of darkness and threat. Something big is coming, threatening you by throwing a shadow. Or you have walked through the desert all day in the sun and heat, and the shadow is your rest, your relief, maybe even your salvation. Well, in English you have two different words, a shadow and a shade, which should make a distinguish between those two things. But in many languages, including Lithuanian, we don't have this distinguish. We have the same word for both meanings. And if a child reads a book in which he meets the word shadow, depending on his interpretation, he accepts and evaluates the situation consciously and subconsciously. And it might be, one way or another. And that goes into his head and shapes not only his worldview, but also his personality. So, what if a person with a very dark soul and bad intentions writes a fictional book in which nothing happens as it does in the world as we know it, and every adventure, even the character or event, has a metaphorical meaning? So, why I'm talking about this at all, and then why I am doing this book at all? Because my 9-year-old son is currently reading it, and I'm not sure about anything that relates to the author and his personality. History is a tricky thing. Not everything it says it can be trusted. But my son is enjoying this book very much. And I also read it now, and I don't get it. I don't understand what kind of things makes him interesting to read this book. Do you understand anything in that book? Have you ever read this book at all? And in the end, I believe that people carry the light within themselves, and that light can be taken away if other people who don't have the light inside them try to take it away. So I just want to make sure that my son goes through life shining bright like a star and bringing light to others. I don't want some creepy guy to steal it from him. And yes, I decided to glue an old broken pocket watch with a beautiful golden tree growing inside it on the cover of the book. But because of my inattention and all these side thoughts, I glued it on the back cover. The super glue did its job perfectly, which is why I had to force the watch off. Of course, this left marks on the cover, so I had to do something I don't normally do. I glued beautiful handmade paper from Nepal along the front and back covers. But in the end, things don't look so bad. What do you think? And I still can open my watch with a golden tree inside. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you guys for being here with me. I know I may seem crazy to some people, but I guess I am in some way. I send you all my beautiful light from inside, and wish you to learn how to protect yourselves and your kids. Take a look at my web application Bookbinder's Buddy if you want to print and bind a book at home. Take a look at my Skillshare course and see you next week. Bye!